Oh my gosh. I just saw a car flying through the air. I just saw a car flying through the air. Hey, there's a tornado right there.
It's May 22nd, 2011, and the small city of Joplin, Missouri is just beginning to wake up. The warm spring air carries with it the usual scent of earth and rain, but there's something else today. A strange, uneasy stillness hangs in the atmosphere, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The sun, bright and intense, flickers through the clouds that are beginning to gather ominously above. For most of the residents in Joplin, today will seem like any other day, one of the 1,000 quiet Mondays that drift by. But it's not. It's anything but. Missouri, known for its vast fields and winding roads, has seen tornadoes before. The state is located in what is often called Tornado Alley, a region prone to severe weather, including the most destructive tornadoes in the United States. Tornadoes are an undeniable fact of life in the area, and the people here know that the storm season, particularly in May, brings with it a heightened sense of danger. But even in a place that regularly faces nature's violent fury, the tornado that is about to hit Joplin will be unlike anything this city has seen. A storm so deadly, so overwhelming that it will forever change the landscape and lives of those who are caught in its path. It's early afternoon, just after 3 p.m., when meteorologists at the National Weather Service begin to notice something unusual. The sky, once a bright blue, is now tinged with gray, and the wind picks up, sweeping dust and debris through the streets. In the distance, something is stirring, a storm that has been slowly strengthening throughout the day. Initially, it looked like a normal storm, but for hours it has been a gathering force, with meteorologists keeping a close eye on its development. By now, it's no longer a simple thunderstorm. It was clear that something dangerous is going to happen. The air feels tense, heavy, like the world is waiting for something to break. At the National Weather Service in Springfield, Missouri, forecasters are starting to realize the full potential of what they are looking at. The computer models which they rely on to predict severe weather have been showing warning signs, but nothing like this. The storm has become something far worse than anticipated. A supercell, a storm system capable of producing massive tornadoes. The sky over Joplin, now thick with dark clouds, feels heavy with the weight of something terrible. There's a building tension in the air, and it's not just from the approaching storm. The atmosphere itself seems to pulse with an unnatural electric energy that crackles in the stillness. By 4:30 p.m., the National Weather Service had issued a tornado warning for Joplin. The warning sounds across the city's emergency broadcast systems, the sirens blaring and the radios crackling with urgent voices. Residents who hear the warning are told to take shelter immediately. The city's emergency services scramble into action, and storm chasers from all over the area are already on their way, eager to document the storm, but also driven by the knowledge of the dangers this one may pose. What they don't know yet, what no one could have predicted, is the level of devastation this storm is about to unleash. At 5 p.m., the first tornado touched down. It's weak at first, a barely visible twister that touches down just outside of Joplin's northern edge. But within minutes, it's clear that this is no ordinary storm. The winds pick up, growing faster, stronger, more intense. This is the beginning of a chain reaction. The storm begins to rotate faster, drawing in air from all directions. The tornado begins to expand, gaining strength at a terrifying rate. By 5:15 p.m., the storm has become a massive EF5 tornado, an F5, the highest possible rating for a tornado. Its winds reach speeds greater than 200 miles per hour. The first sign of trouble comes when the tornado touches down in a residential area just outside of the city. It rips through homes and trees with ease, its winds tearing apart everything in its path. Cars are tossed like toys, thrown hundreds of feet into the air before crashing back to the ground. Buildings are flattened as though they were made of paper, leaving behind nothing but debris and destruction. The sound is deafening, a roar like a freight train, only much, much worse. Within seconds, the destruction is horrifying. A dozen homes that were standing just moments ago are now splintered piles of wood and rubble. Entire streets are swept clean, leaving nothing but scorched earth in their wake. Trees that once lined the streets are reduced to nothing more than broken trunks, their branches scattered like discarded matchsticks. The storm doesn't just touch down and move. It digs into the heart of the city with the fury of an ancient monster, swallowing everything in its path. The tornado moves swiftly towards the heart of Joplin, growing stronger with every passing minute. The city streets, which had once been quiet and peaceful, are now filled with the chaos of sirens, frantic voices, and the sound of rushing wind. People are rushing to their homes and workplaces to take shelter, but many are already too late. The tornado is almost upon them. By 5:34 p.m., the tornado reaches the center of Joplin. It hits the most densely populated areas, tearing through neighborhoods, schools, and businesses. The destruction is almost immediate, with entire blocks flattened in seconds. The local hospital, St. John's Regional Medical Center, is struck with the full force of the tornado. The hospital's windows shatter, and the building itself begins to collapse. The staff inside struggle to maintain control, trying to save the patients in the hospital, but the tornado is too powerful. Floors begin to cave in, and the walls are torn apart as if they were made of tissue paper. Inside, the chaos mirrors that outside. People are screaming, crying, and praying, but the tornado knows no mercy. The damage is unimaginable. Entire streets, once lined with homes, are now barren wastelands. Trees are uprooted, cars are turned into scrap metal, and the sound of glass shattering is drowned out by the deafening roar of the storm. The tornado moves with brutal precision, leaving behind a wake of devastation that stretches for miles. Everything in its path is completely ruined. The tornado doesn't just destroy, it erases. Schools crumbled to the ground, their once strong foundations no match for the storm's fury. Shopping centers, restaurants, and gas stations are reduced to nothing more than piles of debris. Vehicles that were parked calmly along the streets are hurled through the air like toys, colliding with other cars, trees, and buildings, their metal frames crumpling upon impact. Entire homes, some of them built with years of care and effort, are reduced to mere skeletons, their walls peeled away like the skin of a ripe fruit. The tornado carves a path of total destruction. The winds are so fierce that even concrete buildings are not safe. The sheer power of the storm is enough to strip away roofs, tear apart brick walls, and uproot telephone poles like they were made of matchsticks. This is not just damage. This is obliteration. The storm doesn't stop to discriminate. No building, no vehicle, no tree, and no human life is spared as the tornado twists its way through the city with the brutality of a cosmic force, indifferent, uncaring, and unstoppable. By the evening, the tornado was beginning to lose strength, but even as it weakens, the damage is already done. The city is now a disaster zone, with thousands of people trapped in the wreckage. Emergency services scramble to respond, but the sheer scale of the destruction makes it nearly impossible to coordinate. First responders from neighboring cities rush to Joplin's aid, but roads are blocked and power lines are down, making the task of reaching the survivors all the more difficult. But when the tornado finally lifts, there's a brief moment of calm. The air, thick with dust and debris, hangs heavy in the aftermath of the storm. The silence that follows is unnatural, thunderous in its stillness. For a moment, you could almost convince yourself that it's over. The roar of destruction fades away, replaced by a haunting quiet, as though the entire world has stopped, holding its breath. It feels like time itself has frozen. The tornado, that monstrous force of nature, has passed, leaving in its wake a landscape that can hardly be recognized. But that silence, so deceptive, so false, hides something far more sinister. The destruction is only just beginning to reveal itself. The true cost of the storm is now clear, and it's as if the earth itself is struggling to comprehend what just happened. The first responders, those brave few who rushed to the scene as soon as they could, are now stepping into a hellscape. And what they find is beyond words. It's not just the immediate, terrifying aftermath, the bodies, the injured, the blood, but the sheer scale of the disaster. As emergency services begin to assess the damage, it quickly becomes apparent that the tornado didn't just destroy homes and buildings. It leveled entire blocks, obliterated entire sections of the city, leaving behind a trail of devastation unlike anything seen in modern times. The first signs of the magnitude of the catastrophe come from the hospitals. St. John's Regional Medical Center, which had been struck by the tornado with such intensity that the building itself was severely damaged, now stands as an overwhelmed and frantic emergency hub. The hospital, already struggling to keep up with the flood of patients, becomes a war zone in itself. Staff scramble to tend to the wounded, but the number of injuries is beyond anything they could have prepared for. There are people who need life-saving surgery, others who are unconscious, others who are in such critical condition that every minute counts. But with the hospital's infrastructure crippled and the onslaught of new casualties coming in at a rate that cannot be managed, the scene inside is absolute chaos. And outside, it's no better. The roads are clogged with debris, cars, trucks, even large construction vehicles have been tossed around like toys. Power lines hang dangerously, snapped like twigs, leaving entire neighborhoods in darkness. Streetlights, once the beacons of life in the city, now flicker intermittently, as if mocking the helplessness of those who rely on them. Communications are down. People who once thought of Joplin as a safe, quiet town now find themselves in a living nightmare, cut off, stranded, and utterly helpless. The authorities, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the disaster, can't keep up with the scale of what's happening. First responders, who are already operating at full capacity, are stretched to their breaking point. They've managed to get some people out, but many others remain trapped under the rubble. Rescue efforts are ongoing, but the clock is ticking. Every minute that passes makes the chances of finding survivors slimmer. The storm's fury has taken so much that it seems there's nothing left, no part of the city untouched by its wrath. The damage to Joplin is beyond comprehension. More than 150 people are dead, their lives violently torn away by the unstoppable force of the tornado. And the number of injuries climbs rapidly. Thousands are wounded, many in critical condition. The streets are littered with the debris of shattered homes and businesses, but amidst the destruction, the survivors stumble out, dazed, confused, and shaken to their core. Their homes, what was left of them, are reduced to splinters. Their belongings are lost, scattered to the wind. Families are separated. The shock, the grief, the confusion, it all sets in, overwhelming everyone in its path. Entire neighborhoods are flattened, reduced to rubble with no sign of what once stood there. The once vibrant streets where children played and families laughed now resemble a war zone, a dystopian nightmare. The houses that line the streets are gone, their foundations swept away as though they were never there. Buildings that once stood tall, proud, and full of life are nothing but twisted piles of concrete, steel, and wood. The city, now unrecognizable, is full of messes. The city's infrastructure is severely damaged. Emergency services are stretched to the absolute limit, and the challenges they face are monumental. Hospitals are overwhelmed, with nowhere near enough beds for the injured, and every corner of the city is filled with the constant panicked calls for help. People are trapped in their homes, unable to escape. And yet, in the midst of this nightmare, something remarkable happens. The people of Joplin, though devastated, are not defeated. They may be lost in the wake of this unimaginable horror, but they aren't giving up. The destruction may have torn apart their city, but it has not broken their spirit. Across the country, news of the devastation spreads. Volunteers pour into Joplin from neighboring cities, states, and even other countries. They come not for glory or recognition, but out of sheer necessity. They come because they know that the people of Joplin need them. They come because they understand that in times like these, every hand is needed, and every ounce of help is a lifeline. The search and rescue efforts are launched with teams of firefighters, police officers, and volunteers scouring the rubble for survivors. In the days that follow, people will dig through the remains of homes, often by hand, hoping to find someone, anyone, still alive. The air is thick with dust, and the work is grueling, but there's no time to waste. Each minute that passes without finding a survivor makes the hope of finding more seem impossible. But the rescuers press on. There's no option but to push forward, to keep searching, because somewhere in this mess, there are still lives to be saved. National and international media flood the city, bringing attention to the scale of the disaster. Reporters, camera crews, and journalists descend upon Joplin, capturing the heart-wrenching aftermath for the world to see. But it's not just the destruction that is being captured, it's the heroism. The footage that is broadcasted around the world is filled with stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Neighbors helping neighbors, strangers rushing to pull people from collapsed buildings, doctors and nurses working through the night, giving everything they have to save as many lives as they can. The media coverage shifts away from the devastation to focus on the overwhelming strength and courage of the human spirit. It's a story of a city torn apart, but rising again in the face of unimaginable loss. The devastation was so bad that even after years, people couldn't get over the incident. It keeps haunting them. Despite the overwhelming loss and destruction, Joplin slowly begins to rebuild. The task of rebuilding is monumental. It's not just the physical structures that need to be replaced, it's the community, the soul of the city that has been shattered. But as the weeks pass, the people of Joplin prove that they are not broken. They work together to clear the debris, to repair what can be saved, and to rebuild what has been lost. The city will never be the same, but the people, these survivors, will never stop fighting to make their home whole again. In the years that follow, Joplin's recovery becomes a symbol of resilience. The scars from that day may never fade, but the city itself